Yo, we talked about Mina's confession to Kafka last time, and now we see the fruits of their teamwork against the biggest threat, Kaiju number 9, and we also get a new form and unlocked power from Kafka, so make sure to stay tuned for this one. Check out the Kaiju within and smash that like button if you enjoy seeing these Kaiju number 8 reviews on the channel and want to keep them coming. Make this the video you join the anti-Kaiju defense force by subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you don't miss future Kaiju number 8 reviews and updates. And now without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. So in this video, we are going to cover important stuff from chapter 109 and then talking about the latest chapter 110. If you remember, the last chapter I talked about on this channel was 108, which was a huge deal because after all that build-up, Kafka achieved his goal from the beginning. He finally got recognized by Mina as her partner, and they were ready to face off against Kaiju number 9 side by side like they always talked about when they were kids. The chapter ended with Mina shooting at Kaiju number 9 and then saying to Kafka, and I quote, "Good thing you've got me by your side," end quote. I didn't do a whole video for chapter 109 because it was in many ways more of the same, but let's get more specific here. We did get more flashbacks of the two kids talking about fighting kaiju, and hilariously Kafka bragged about having an unleashed combat power of 99% when he grows up, the greatest in history. This turned out to be the most ironic statement ever because of Kafka's eventual inability to unleash practically any combat power suit-wise. He's like the only one to have 0 and then worked his way up all the way to a whole 1%. He also talked about wanting to be the best sharpshooter and the best with a blade, and the most popular captain for 10 years straight. Very specific goal right there. Mina just said she wants to save lots of lives, and she wants no one to die while she's on the mission. Hilariously, Kafka called her dream unrealistic after everything he said, but he still told her, let's make it happen, the two of us can make it happen for sure. And then we jump to today where we see them standing together side by side. Sure, not everything panned out perfectly. Kafka definitely isn't the best sharpshooter and blade master with 99% unleashed combat power, but the main idea of them doing it together and fighting side by side is there, even if they got there differently than expected. Probably a good life lesson there if you break it down, something about you may get what you wanted most, but you gotta be open to getting it in a different way than you expected. In the present, she again calls him a liar, saying you said you would catch up right away. She thought he'd never make it. After a bit of this teasing, Mina mentions how Kafka has to stop trying to do everything himself, and he comments that yeah, Ichikawa made him realize that too, and oh boy, you'll never believe who he asks for help later on in the video. It's crazy. Kafka apologizes, as I mentioned, because he not only got here late, but the person he is now isn't the one he expected to be. And surprisingly, the big star Mina also says, I haven't been able to become the adult I aim to be either. Even so, she says we have to keep moving forward. Kaiju number 9 prepares to fight, and the short but nice moment between the two is interrupted. But before that, Mina, despite all the teasing, smiles and says to Kafka, thank you for being by my side. This moment got 2 full pages in the chapter to show us how important of a moment it is for Kafka and for the story. Like I said last time, this is what Kafka wanted since chapter 1, to work his way up until he's by Mina's side as he promised when they were kids. And here we have it, him achieving that goal. Now of course he still needs to protect her and win, but his big dream of the series has come true. That's a big moment for any story, and we probably got a whole nother chapter about it in this fast-paced series because the mangaka wants to hammer that home. Kafka then thinks to himself, none of his childhood dreams came true. All he's got left is the promise that when that time comes, when Mina is facing kaiju, he'll be right there by her side. She says, let's go, and he says, yeah, let's wipe out the kaiju together, as they promised to do when they were kids. So that was that chapter. No progress in the fight, just hammering home how Kafka and clearly Mina's dream has finally come true. So I think you see why that couldn't be a whole video on its own, although I had to mention it in this one because it is important, just not in the plot progressing with the fight kind of way. But if at any point we were going to get a breather in this fast-paced series, that moment was it, when they finally both accomplished their dream, aka childhood promise. So in this latest chapter, we get back to the usual insanely fast-paced story. We finally get back to the action, and we'll be able to see what this legendary and much anticipated duo will actually be able to do. They begin by confidently proclaiming, and I quote, "now neutralizing Kaiju number 9, end quote. And you see Vice Captain Hoshina, who some people may feel bad for in this chapter because he clearly does get replaced as Mina's partner, and obviously said before that he wouldn't let that happen, but I think we all knew it would happen eventually because after all, this is a story where the protagonist is Kafka and not Hoshina. But at least he has the consolation prize of now having a badass Kaiju as his partner. Kaiju number 9 starts by firing off attacks at them and them dodging. Kafka thinks that he still has 2 techniques 9 doesn't know about. If he can hit his core before he figures them out, then they win. But if he can't, then it doesn't look so good. And nice to see Kafka taking the lead like when they were kids here. And Mina tells him, got it, I'll provide covering fire and strip away his shield. She wants him to put everything he's got into hitting that core of number 9's. It's clearly tougher for 9 now that he has to try to attack Mina from afar while engaging in close combat with Kafka. Kafka manages to land a powerful punch on 9's arm that strips away a lot of the flesh. It just shows the insane power Kafka has in this form. But number 9 launches a counterattack from his mouth, but Mina counters the counter with her shots. And we're told it's amazing. Her support fire is not only absurdly powerful, but also incredibly precise. Her approach now compared to when she's teamed up with Vice Captain Hoshina, we're told, is like night and day, which as I was saying sounds like a nail in the coffin of the old duo, since it's implied here that even Mina does better when teamed up with Kafka, which makes sense if you think about it, since even before they got here, they spent most of their lives hoping this moment would come and thinking of each other. As childhood friends, they probably also have this trust built up on a deep level, which you just can't get with anybody. We're further told that we are witnessing a completely new side of Mina, and I really like this. I like that we're getting a transformation in Mina and not just in Kafka. Now it's believed with her support, the game has changed. It's definitely not checkmate as 9 previously said. Kafka can now use techniques he's already revealed. Hopefully, Kafka can use this new momentum to force his way through. That's what people are thinking. Then from the reading, they detect that number 2's shockwave is coming. Kafka dodges it, and it's pointed out that 9 isn't the only one learning. It's funny, in most series, it's the protagonist that is learning and improving and trying to reach the villain who's usually already powerful and not necessarily getting more powerful. But here, the enemy is known so much for learning and adapting that this series has to remind us that, hey, our protagonist can learn too. It's part of what makes 9 such a terrifying villain. One of the reasons Kafka is doing so well here is because he experienced this power of number 2 when he fought Director Shinomiya. But then we get an attack that wasn't a 9 or Kaiju number 2 attack, one that there's no data on. Honestly, from my perspective, that's not that surprising since we are dealing with 9 here, but it shows that 9 isn't close to being beaten yet. He has more backup plans and many more tricks up his sleeve. It's concluded that number 9 is housing several abilities in one body. Mina tells Kafka there were countless Kaiju inside 9. I don't know what that thing was, but tread carefully. He's still got tricks up his sleeve. Glad she ended up using the same wording as I did. So they keep pushing on with this attack. They're thinking to themselves, push through, push through, push through. But even this dream team of a duo is not enough. The push ends up with both Mina and Kafka getting slammed backwards into walls. We see blood escape from both of their mouths, showing how much that actually hurt them. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised they didn't do better together from the get-go, but I get that they don't want to make it too easy, and it's a strength of the series that it's so fast-paced and it keeps you on your toes. 1 second, the seeming all-powerful dream team is about to attack, the next second they get slammed into walls and it seems hopeless. People comment that they can't reach it. Even number 8 and Mina's powers combined are not enough. They're all out of options. People think it's all over. Kafka, though, has another ace up his sleeve. He says, and I quote, "Yeah, that makes sense. Number 9, you're the same kaiju that Captain Narumi and I couldn't lay a scratch on back then. The combat techniques were our ace in the hole. I couldn't even tell Mina about it. But this is," and he looks deadly serious as he says this, "something I searched for on my own, that I kept secret even from Vice Captain Hoshina. An ace even deeper in the hole. He says he can control it for 1 minute, and it looks like he trained in controlling it with our boy Narumi, known as Japan's strongest anti-kaiju combatant. Obviously, he had to be there if anything went wrong, because as we see, his ace in the hole is none other than setting the kaiju within that wants to kill and seems to only think of killing free. We see the kaiju that entered Kafka and made him kaiju number 8 looming large over Kafka as he asks for its strength. Then we see Kafka undergoing this beast of a transformation, and it looks so badass, not to mention powerful. It'll most likely be similar to the Berserk mode that he entered when he fought Director Shinomiya, where the kaiju took over, but hopefully stronger now that Kafka has trained with it. Now, because of the whole build-up, I think that Mina will get up and continue to help while Kafka uses this new somewhat mastered Berserk form to fight 9 in close combat. That will hopefully give them the edge they need to survive, and maybe 9 will decide he has to retreat again. We'll see, but I hesitate to say they'll beat him for good because 9 was the big villain of the series from the beginning, and I don't even know if the series would just end after him because of that. But we'll have to wait and see. Either way, I'm very hyped to see what this new form will be able to accomplish. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think will happen next? Will this be enough to beat or at least scare away Kaiju number 9? Or is this going to end up being as long as the Sukuna fight and just keep going back and forth every chapter? But anyways, if you did enjoy this video, then don't miss this video on screen right now that YouTube thinks you'll like to watch next. Like and subscribe to let me know that you want me to keep covering Kaiju number 8, and I'll see you in the next one.